What's going on, everybody? My name is Alonso. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going over the weaving process for tree nets. Now, we've already learned how to make the perimeter and we've already learned how to make the skeleton. If you missed those videos, I highly encourage you to check those out. I'll put those right here on the screen so you can go just back to those, and then when you've watched those videos, come back to this one. Now, before we begin, I want to clarify something. In this video, I'm not actually going to cover weaving patterns. That'll be something that I cover in future videos. For this video, I more so want to cover the logistics, things to avoid, and things to do when weaving in a tree net, because a lot of that stuff is important. So just like the skeleton, we're gonna have a few rules of thumb for weaving as well. So let's talk about them. Before we do that though, I want to give a quick shout out to all my patrons on this channel. If you guys want to support this channel, follow the link here. I'll also put that down in the description. All donations go back into making this channel better for you guys. We bought a new camera lens so far. I'm trying to get some lavalier mics and other camera equipment to make this experience much more enjoyable for y'all. I'm posting twice a week right now. I'm trying to up that to once a week. I have a goal in mind, and if I'm able to hit 100 patrons, I'll give away a free 10x10x10 space net to one lucky patron every single month. So help me reach that goal, guys. Support the channel. Click the link down below. Thank you so much for all your support. I really appreciate it. Rule number 1 for weaving. We want to work outside in, never end to end. Now the reason for this, and we covered this in the last video a little bit as well, is if you start to weave on one end of your tree net and you work your way to the other, pulling tightly all the way across, you're gonna find that where you began weaving, you're gonna have a much looser weave than where you finished weaving. And that's just because you're gonna get more deformation from your perimeter. It's gonna deform inward, obviously, because everything's getting pulled inward. And where you start is obviously going to be looser than where you finish, because you're gonna have more inward deformation of that perimeter as you go, if that makes sense. So to fix this mistake, we want to weave from the outside in. So essentially what you want to happen, you want to have all the areas near your perimeter fully weaved with an empty cavity in the middle, so that that empty cavity pulls everything tightly together. You'll notice with my net, I have this middle part weaved already, so you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, aren't you breaking your own rule? And there is an exception to this. You want to do this when you have a very regular shape, kind of like a circular shape or a square or something like this. Here we have a very long triangle that would be very difficult to weave outside in because it's much longer this way than it is this way. So what I'm doing, I weaved this bit here to divide this into two triangles. So I'm going to treat this as one perimeter, weave all the way around it, treat the other side as another perimeter, weave all the way around it, and then I'm going to pull everything tight with two empty cavities in the middle of each of the two triangles. So to summarize rule number 1, weave from the outside in, not end to end or front to back. Always make sure you have an empty cavity in the middle at the very end of your weave, so that way it pulls everything tightly together. This is especially true if your perimeter legs are very long, because the longer your perimeter legs, the more they'll tend to deform as you weave. On to rule number 2. For rule number 2, I know I said I wasn't going to cover weaving technique and weaving patterns. I think it's important to cover at least the rules to those weaving patterns, and we're going to go over those right here, right now. So, I apologize for the inception. We're doing rules within rules now, but it's very important, so I feel like we definitely need to cover this. Whenever you hit your skeleton or your perimeter with some paracord, use a clove hitch. It doesn't have to be a clove hitch, you could also use a girth hitch. Just make sure it's some sort of hitch that isolates the paracord. The reason you want to do this is because you want to make your net as safe as possible for anyone that's on it, and here's what I mean by this. Let's say you have a clove hitch and both ends of the clove hitch have tension on them. Now if you cut one of those tensioned pieces of paracord, the other one should remain tensioned because that paracord is isolated at the clove hitch. Versus if you just had 2 wraps around the rope and then they were both tensioned, if you cut one, those 2 wraps aren't going to be enough to hold the tension on the other one, and your whole thing is going to fail. Now, as an extreme example, let's say we didn't use any clove hitches within our entire space net and just started weaving back and forth randomly. One cut piece of paracord and your entire net is done. And if you do a lot of clove hitches like we do here, you're gonna have a lot of points of redundancy, and if any piece of paracord ever gets cut, which may happen, people sometimes have sharp items on them, there's definitely wear and tear, but this is going to reduce your repairs on your tree net to 1 or 2 cords versus the entire thing, so you'll thank yourself greatly for that. Rule number 2, you always want to make contact with a piece of cord when you're intercepting it in any type of way. So what I like to think about when I weave, especially if I'm doing the insanity method, which again, that's a weaving pattern that I'll cover in a totally separate video, so if you haven't already, by the way, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. Say this is a piece of paracord here and this is another piece of paracord. If you're weaving this way, you don't want to just go over this piece of paracord like this, because what's going to happen is if you're stepping on this one here, they're going to separate like this, and you've now created a tripping point. So what you want to do instead is wrap them so that no matter which one you're standing on, they're together and they move as a unit. Always make contact by wrapping the piece of paracord that you're going around, and also do this with your skeleton and literally any other cord you come across. Now this brings me to rule number 3 for weaving. And this one goes hand in hand with rule number 2 actually. Whenever we do make contact with another piece of cord, especially when it's paracord on paracord, we want to do a double wrap. If you're going to continue forward, for example, you don't just want to wrap once and then go. You want to wrap twice and then go. And if you're making a 180, you don't just want to go around and back, but you want to go around, wrap one more time, and then come back. And the reason for this is a very scientific thing called pressure. Pressure, and I'm gonna get a little bit nerdy on you guys here. Pressure is, by definition, force per area. So the amount of force over a given area is gonna determine how much pressure you have on any system. So for example, and this is totally irrelevant to space net weaving, if I push my hands together like this with a force of say 50 pounds, that's going to be less pressure than if I put my finger on my palm with 50 pounds as well, because the surface area is much smaller at the tip of my finger than it is on the palm of my hand. That idea is exactly the same for space net weaving, but you're worried about abrasion at this point. So if you think about it, the less pressure you have on your cord, the less likely it is for your cords to cut each other. Now, we are breaking a giant rule here that we would never break in something like rock climbing or highlining, for example, and everything is rope on rope here. We have no metal in our system. It's all rope on rope abrasion, and we really want to minimize that by doing more wraps and reducing the pressure of the paracord on paracord friction. So doing this is going to make our net last much longer, and you're going to thank yourself in the future for it. It definitely takes longer to weave this way, but it's a job well done. We're gonna move on to rule number 4 now, and this one is also the same thing as with the skeleton, but rule number 4 is that we always want to pull tight. There's no point in weaving a space net if you're not pulling things tightly. Otherwise, you're just gonna get an uneven mess of a tension, and it's not gonna feel very good on your body to lay on it. You want this thing to be more like a platform rather than a loose net. And the easiest way to do this is to make sure that you're always pulling as tight as you can on the paracord without actually overdoing it, of course. You want to pull tight, but you don't want to be breaking your back trying to pull this thing. But if you look here, it's pretty tight all the way through. It's got the same tension and it feels really nice. I'll keep rule number 4 basic, and just to that, always pull tight, guys. Rule number 5 is actually one that most people don't think about, but if you're going to be weaving a tree net, it's going to be semi-permanently placed. You'll notice here, I'm in the shade. This tree net is in the shade most of the day. So because of that, I'm allowed to use neon colors like this green here or this pink over here. But if your tree net is going to be in the sun for most of the day, one thing you need to know is these colors fade extremely quickly. So you want to avoid using neon colors if your net's going to be seeing a lot of sunlight throughout the day or things like that. Otherwise, your net's gonna just end up white anyway. It's not a huge deal, but you know, it's probably gonna be a huge bummer when you come out to your super colorful, bright neon space net and it's all just a dull bleached white at that point. So if you do have sun, make sure you're using darker, more standard basic colors that aren't neon or really bright. Again, this one isn't a big safety concern, but it is often overlooked, and make sure you don't overlook this rule. Don't forget to have fun, use really pretty colors, and make some epic patterns. This can be a daunting task, but remember, it is something that is supposed to be fun. Try not to stress out when you're making your tree net, and enjoy the process, because that's a really important part to this whole thing. You know, if you're gonna make one of these things in your home, you want to be able to go out and enjoy it, and you don't want it to remind you of the pain and agony that it took to build it. It's gonna be a long process, of course, size dependent, but it should definitely be an enjoyable one. So that's the last rule, everybody. Just enjoy your time. With that being said, those are all my tips and tricks to weaving your first tree net. In separate videos, I'm gonna go over some patterns, but for now, as always, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for the YouTube algorithm. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.